to save the universe from constant dystopian future visions. Terry searches for his moment as Brandon continues to speak without pausing, even for breath. Lore, guests, chat, and sometimes even staying on topic. Wildcast Live! Wild Space Wildcast Go! Across hyperspace rivers we ride tonight, through worlds of steel and neon light, exploring stories far and wide, with chaos always by our side. Wild Space Saga on YouTube, Wild Space Saga Live. Pirates, tanks, strange worlds collide. Wild Space Saga Live. Brandon's still talking somewhere out there. Terry's trying to get a word in. Wild Space Saga Live. Wild Space Wildcast Go!
All right, greetings, YouTube. This is Brendan Hill here with Terrence Paxis, and together we are the creators of Wild Space Saga, the epic sci-fi action-adventure series that you didn't know you needed. And this is the Wild Space Wildcast, made specifically to tell you exactly why you need it. And as we've been around for a hot minute in relative silence on DeviantArt, what have you been missing? But before we begin, take a moment to subscribe and hit that beautiful notification bell so that you won't miss a single bit of news, events, and live streams from our channel. Whether you catch us live or watching after the fact, we want you to join us on the Northwest Passage. And finally, if we pique your interest, links to our books available in paperback and ebook, as well as everywhere else you can find us on the social medias, are available down in the doobly-doo. And always remember, we have our newest book, Twisted Faith, now available where books are sold, both available in hardcover, paperback, and ebook. So hopefully this will pique your interest to get some of the stuff that we are making, and that's what we make this Wild Space Wildcast, to tell you about this beautiful universe and other, of course, nerd adjacent topics. And
I do feel after our theme tune we should be striking like a Power Rangers Megazord.
I think we could probably make like a cool animation that does that. It'll be kind of a weird Megazord, just have two parts. It'd be more like if you ever watched the Inhumanoids back in the day. They had the red and blue one. They were called Magnacore. They would connect to each other. They kind of formed sort of a barrier that imprisoned one of those eldritch abominations called Metalor. Those two were the only things that could contain him. But yeah, there were just two things that they were just joint forces, and they turned into one. All right, and so welcome everyone to the Wild Space Wildcast. And then we have a good guest. His name is Jacob Hubbard, a good friend of mine. I've known him for a while. We've been talking on and off on the internet. We've had a long rapport mostly through Facebook Messenger. He's a fellow author. And go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
So my name is Jacob. I am an author based in Southern California, in the Southwest United States. I wrote a debut novel. Sorry, I don't know if you can see it. It is a breakup story from the perspective of an autistic person. So it's a contemporary love story that dives into internalized ableism, trauma, and love, loss, and empathy through a neurodivergent perspective. I am also currently working on a fantasy-based Vietnam War novel right now. I don't know when that's going to be done. That's what I'm working on right now. I love, if you want to talk about that, I'm more than happy to.
Yeah, that's what someone would like to talk about, because I read some of your first book, and it's very well written. It's very emotional. It gets really deep into how the characters think, and that's a really everybody loves a good author who can really, really get into a character. Sci-fi is nice and fun, because Terry and I do that. And that's what I do want to talk about what you're going to be working on next. But if you know, you can have what you call a book that tickles your nerd pickle as much as you want, but if it's not if it's not fun to read, if you're not getting into the characters, if you're not getting into the story, your characters are driving force, and you know a book is nothing. So you know, for Wild Space Saga, we have a very big cast of characters with a lot of personality, and so we like to do that. So. But so you did tell me, and that was the thing that kind of piqued my interest, was the next book that you're working on. You said, what did you say it was supposed to be?
So it's kind of like, it's a Vietnam War novel, but it's like it takes a fancy realist edge to it, where the basic premise, it's about two twin boys from the 1980s named Benny and Ulrich, who are basically transported to their father's Vietnam War memories after his death, and they're basically reliving his memories to figure out if they can stop his death in their present, basically. So basically, it's basically them trying to survive and get back home to their future, essentially, where they're fighting like, you know, the Viet Cong, they're fighting giant monster and time travel and all that stuff, and it's basically a very gruesome, very violent war novel where it's about exploration of grief and toxic masculinity and all that stuff.
I see. So it's an exploration of grief and a commentary on masculinity. How exactly do they end up traveling through time?
So anyway, that's kind of like part of, I don't want to go too much because that's part of the story itself, but it's basically like like a giant star, it teleports them to the past, and now they're trying to figure out how to get back home and save their father, essentially.
So a star, you said?
Yes. And then I won't go into them. I don't want to go into too much of the mechanics of that because that's part of the whole story.
Okay, so you want to keep the whole method of method of time travel a secret?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like it's the whole idea is that they're basically forced to relive their father's Vietnam War memories, and they have to like try to see if they can save him from the future before he ends up killing himself.
Well, okay, I get you. All right. So this makes me think of the only thing that comes close. There was a TV show I watched. I remember it was a movie, and I know that they had wanted to make more movies based on this movie, but the movie didn't do very, very well. It had Peter Cushing in it, and it was called Biggles Adventures in Time. You ever heard of that?
It sounds familiar. I feel like I've heard of it before.
Yeah, it aired on the Disney Channel years and years ago. It was basically about this dude who was constantly being dragged back and forth through time into a World War. I think it was World War One. Yeah, Germany, and then because he was basically
was huge over here.
Huh?
Biggles, Biggles was huge over here.
Yeah, it was a novel series that was it was popular in the UK. You're right. It was one of those serial pulp novels type things. Like how
they made I think you said they made either a film of it or a series. It's a long time ago since I've seen it, so
I just know it had a really cool intro theme. The song called "Do You Want to Be a Hero?" But he kept on being pulled back through time constantly because he was connected somehow to this dude named I forget his first name, but his last name was Bigglesworth, and so everybody called him Biggles for short. And it was always random. He'd get pulled. He would just be doing something, and then all of a sudden, in the middle, boom, he'd find himself in in the middle of a war zone,
right?
World War One, and fight German.
Yeah. So exactly. So I guess if I were to really give a pitch of what this book is like, it's kind of like Stranger Things meets Platoon. That's probably the best way I could describe it if I were to give like a comparison or like a sort of a pitch.
Okay.
You know.
So there's a lot going on behind what causes them to go back in time than just something simple, right? That's what you're saying?
Right.
Because I mean, how much of Stranger Things have you watched?
I watched the first 3 seasons, and then I kind of fell off after the fourth one, to be honest with you. But
Oh
just
my
basically
god, you didn't watch the whole fourth season? That's like where almost everything is explained, dude.
Mhm.
I mean, yeah, I mean, the fourth season tells you almost everything. The fifth season leaves like one last huge surprise, but yeah, the fifth season is kind of like you're like now it all kind of makes sense. But
well,
yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's obviously more to it than that, but that's kind of like if I were to give like a short pitch version of what I'm working on right now. It is more of like, and it's kind of building off of some of the themes I've been exploring in the first book about grief and trauma, but take it to a much more grander scale. Whereas Sounds of Yesterday, my first book, focused a lot more on grief and thinking about nostalgia in the past and coming to terms with the past in order to move forward in the future. It's kind of this new book I'm working on is kind of like taking a similar route, but it's kind of like expanding it to more like looking at how does generational trauma and toxic masculinity affect the way that people grieve, especially young boys grieve when their loved ones passes away. So that's kind of like what the book is more focused on. That's kind of like what I'm looking on.
So dealing with grief, both in the positive and the negative.
That's one way of looking at it.
Oh, all right, yeah. I guess we kind of caught you more on the earlier stages of it, because when you told me it was going to be, it was going to be has like sci-fi elements, especially like time travel and kaiju, I guess, and I knew when I heard kaiju, I knew this was something.
There is going to be a monster. There is definitely going to be a giant monster that's basically stalking them, trying to brutally murder them. Actually, without giving too much away, there's actually a scene in the book I actually have already written down where Benny and Ulrich are literally fighting tooth and nail against the monster. So, pretty gruesome stuff there.
Is this like monster? Is this like a real monster? Or is this more just sort of a psychological manifestation kind of thing? I mean, you don't have to.
I'm not going to reveal that just yet.
Okay,
you'll have to read the book when it's done.
All right, because because I guess it would all also define like how difficult this monster would be to destroy. Because like if you ever watched Cloverfield, they threw everything they possibly could at this monster that was rather.
I remember Cloverfield.
And it didn't even they did everything short of nuking the city, and it barely made a scratch on that thing. So
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, some inspiration from Cloverfield is in the book, is in the manuscript I'm working on right now. So we'll see how much of that goes into the final product. But it's really also going to be a relationship between the strained relationship between these two boys, after, like all that stuff, trying to like see if they can reconnect as brothers, and also looking at brotherly love, looking at how they can reconnect as actual brothers after a strained relationship, and then after the death of their father, how does it force them to come to terms with things they just kind of swept under the rug as siblings.
Okay, I see. I guess for me, the way you're describing it, I'm very strongly inclined to think that maybe this monster really is a sort of a manifestation thing, because it reminds me, because it makes me think of I don't know how many iterations of Alice in Wonderland you've watched, but there was a live action one that came out.
I've seen so many different versions of Alice in Wonderland. So there's some inspiration from Alice in Wonderland a little bit. The reason why I'm asking, no, that's okay. The reason why I'm asking is because there was a live action one that came out in the 80s where it was all played by people in costumes and elaborate costumes and makeup and puppets and whatnot. And it was like a two-parter, because it was, the first one was her in Alice in Wonderland. The second part was, of course, Alice through the Looking Glass. I didn't realize those were actually two different books that Lewis Carroll made until years later. Right.
In the Looking Glass, when she was accosted constantly by this dragon monster, the Jabberwock, and it was like a manifestation of her own insecurities and fears, because at the end she had to face it and lose her fear of it for it to finally beat it. And it was pretty nightmarish, being a kid,
right?
Constantly, her just out of nowhere, this monster would appear and start wrecking shop, and her running, in terror, constantly. It was, and her having to face it like the kids had to face Pennywise, in it, telling you, "I'm not afraid of you, I'm not afraid of you," and it slowly killed it, But like I said, it whether or not it's a real thing or it's a manifestation, I know you want to keep that secret. I'm just talking about things that kind of makes me think about.
Right. I mean, like I said, I don't want to give too much away about that because, again, you would have to read the final book to find that out, basically. But yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I get you. Let me see. I know, Terry, you've been unusually quiet.
That's because I'm sick.
Yeah, I know. I know you have been feeling well. I was hoping you might have a question or two for him, in case.
At the minute, I'm doing my best not to cough my guts up on stream. So,
I get you, man. Yeah,
I might be a bit quiet, but it's just like I have to be here for solidarity from a man. Oh, Brandon.
Right.
I wasn't feeling so unwell that I couldn't turn up.
Right.
But I may be a bit quiet just because my voice may slowly disappear as I talk, and then I'm basically sound like Oliver Reed by the end of it.
Well, did you have any questions involving this? Since we talked, especially we talked a bit about kaiju. I didn't want to leave you out completely. No,
you're fine. It sounds interesting. I don't have any questions. I don't often immediately have questions, to be fair, about anything. They usually come later, and I go, I could have done that. So at the moment, no, my mind is blank, I'm afraid.
Okay.
And I'm excited for this one because I've been working on and off for the past year, and it is definitely coming together. It's coming. The story's coming into place. The puzzle pieces. I'm starting to finally see how the puzzles fit together, how the puzzle fits together, and all that stuff. And yeah, I'm excited to see how the story ends up. And yeah, it's becoming something I hope people will like.
Well, considering that it really, like I said, when you describe what it was about, it was something that I knew was going to really kind of interest me, and because it involved not just some realistic things, blending in historical things with sci-fi. I have a friend of mine who's a really huge history buff, so he probably might really like the whole Vietnam War thing, and especially a lot of the tales of Vietnam War. Vietnam War was such a bloodbath, and kind of going into a stage of combat that we were it took place in a time when we were so. We thought we were invincible, and Vietnam was an extremely humbling experience, for our nation's military at the very least. And it left a bad taste in everybody's mouth.
Well, you can thank the French for it. Because because the French are the ones struggling, and they basically went to the US and said, well, if you don't help us, communism's looking pretty good to us. And you know what you thought of communism at the time.
I thought at the time that we went into the war, the Vietnamese had already kicked out the French, and Ho Chi Minh was kind of running shop there. So
yeah, but that's kind of what drew you into it. It was the French threatened to become communists.
Yeah, it was. We were on a big anti-communism kick.
Right.
Where we were like going out to the world trying to stop it because we'd seen what had happened in Russia and whatnot.
So it's like, no, you can't have the French becoming communist. Fine, we'll help you.
Well, we also kind of had. I know that at the end of World War II, what says Truman became president after Roosevelt died, and Truman did not play ball very well with the Russians like Roosevelt did. He did not ingratiate himself very well to Khrushchev, and that also kind of led to problems in their attitude towards the Russians. And then of course, like I said, everything was a police action, and we were supporting what you call megalomaniacal dictatorships, even just because they're not commies. And so Yeah, we went
The
into
thing
a
is,
war
that
that
was the
we
philosophy of the time, though, isn't
Right.
it? It's amazing.
we went into
And how vastly different, Russian culture was to US culture or Western culture anyway. So things, in a way, you probably never were going to see eye to eye politically.
Mm-hmm.
and so we went into what's called Vietnam, guns ablazing, not really taking the time to really understand the land, the people, anything like that. And the VC were able to basically use the lay of the land to make things miserable for us. And
Yep.
I mean, we didn't even know who the enemy was. People VC didn't exactly have a formal uniform.
They didn't wear uniforms. Yeah,
Yeah, they were fighting guerrilla war tactics against us the entire time, catching us flat-footed. A person who was dressing your wound would pull a knife out on you. If you didn't know any better. So yeah.
I should also mention. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead, man. I've been running my mouth. Go ahead.
I should also mention that the book they're working on right now is also a prequel to my first book, a standalone prequel too. It's going to be set in the same universe as my first book.
Okay, so you're going for that shared universe thing, like Brandon Sanderson.
You could say that. I mean, kind of like different genres, because the first book is literary fiction, contemporary love story, whereas this next one is fantasy, war, action, thriller, stuff like that. So it's kind of like two different genres, the same shared universe. I will say this: the dad of Rob's dad, the main character of the first book, he's going to be a major character in the new book I'm working on right now.
Okay, all right. Well, okay, maybe not Brandon Sanderson. Brandon Sanderson, his stuff is all just strictly high fantasy in his universe. Maybe more like Stephen King, because Stephen King wrote things in like all the same universe, but they were often different genres. One would be straight up fantasy, one would be urban fantasy, one would be that kind of stuff.
I can see that. Yeah. So yeah, Brian, who is Rob's dad from his first book, he's definitely going to be a major character in the new book I'm working on right now. So I won't say what his role is yet, but he's going to be very important.
Okay. Let me see. I'm trying to think of something else I wanted to talk. Oh yeah. But back to what I was just saying is just, and maybe I was just kind of getting a little too long-winded. I was just
You're good.
Going to the theater, the Vietnam War is going to be a rife. It's going to be a field that's ripe to talk about the effects of trauma. So it's going to be very very interesting to see what you pull with this, because it's going to bring up some very bringing up some very interesting subjects to talk about if you play cards right. Because people do love that kind of fiction. Now it does sound to me like the fiction just is more like going to have like a sprinkling of a fantastical element, rather than be something that you blend both all kind of equal.
Right.
But that's pretty cool. It's all right. I still like the whole thing you're adding to it, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing what you pump out with that one, man. Because your writing style is really really good. I even though I haven't finished reading Song Through yesterday, I really did like the way it's written.
Thank you.
The way the characters really were able to get into the heads of a lot of people, and especially writing a book from a person, the perspective of a person who's autistic. I couldn't do that because I myself am not autistic. I probably might be able to write it from the perspective of somebody who's somewhat ADHD, but and even then, that's not easy to do, because you may not, because if it's the way you've been all your life, then you have a hard time writing out a book that's going to really put you into the headspace of someone who's like that. I mean, I've seen people who can do it. There's a comic that it's actually a series of web cartoons that I love to watch. It's called So Okay, Here's the Thing, and the main character is a dude named MMS who's ADHD, and really can get into the head of someone who is ADHD because he has the hyperfixation on things, the just easily distracted kind of thing, all that kind of stuff, and he kind of makes it into a joke, or even makes it almost look like it's a superpower, and actually in some cases it really is because the way that ADHD people can hyperfixate on certain things, and to suddenly they're like, how did you memorize all that, or how did you get it? Like, I just did.
Right.
Especially
I have friends.
Yeah,
I have friends who are like that, so I totally know what you're talking about.
Yeah, one of my friends, and he's a friend of mine I've known for years, and he's kind of heads our D&D group, and I'll be talking to him about something that I've seen on TV, because I've always had a really good memory when it comes to TV shows, and I'd rattle off like an entire encyclopedia of details of a particular thing that I watched on TV that I liked, and he's just sitting there like, he's like, how did you remember all that? And I'm like, I just always had a good memory when it comes to that kind of stuff. And I didn't realize until years later that because of ADD, that's just something I can do. If it's something I'm really interested in, I can fixate on it to the point where I'll remember really, really well.
That's good.
But I would never really be able to write a character that could express to an audience that isn't like that what it's like to be that, because it's just how I am, it's just how I am. And it took me a long time to even understand that, that's different from other people. I mean, I was in my 30s, I think, when I learned that. So,
Is that why you have so many struggles writing for Miranda?
Well,
it's one of our characters.
Miranda, I when you told me she was autistic, and the way that you seemed to describe her, I thought I was kind of doing the right thing when I had her, be a little bit robotic in her responses and not always like emotion based. Because I work with people who are autistic, and I was picking up a few elements of how their personalities work, especially one particular guy. Although he does have emotions, it was just that his emotions tend to be oddly placed. And but otherwise he was almost robotic, because he'll come to you, his questions and statements are always very succinct, and then he'll walk off, and he's very similar to Rain Man in that he could pick up on things like with like a recording of things and just like rattle it all off. I've seen him recite entire scripts of Yu-Gi-Oh episodes, verbatim. Just kind of just talking to himself, but doing that. They said people who work with him, he saw a jellyfish in the lake one time and just rattled off the entire encyclopedia of jellyfish. But like, if you've ever watched Rain Man, he had no practical understanding of how to apply that knowledge. And so when they asked him to tell us about the jellyfish, but he would say, got no bones. And that was pretty much all he'd say, about it. So, and there were other people who would work with, and there was one guy who was autistic, but he was nonverbal. One boy I worked with, he had a tendency to be echolalic. He wouldn't talk much himself, but when you told him something, he'd always just repeat what you said. He understood what you were saying, but it was just he would repeat what you said. He would never really speak for himself, Whereas another one house was more high functioning, and so he talked with you about things. But some things that he was very, 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 very stubborn if it was something he did not want to do. So So, there were different kinds of people who had different levels of autism that I've worked with. So I was able to, so Miranda, I just kind of was reminded, it made me think of, when I thought of her, I was thinking of somebody who was the kind of autistic person who would respond to things in a very mechanical sense. So, because, being a tank that that's grown up in the military and being wired basically for tactical information and whatnot, I think that would be something you'd expect from her. So, there's a scene in this book in Twisted Faith where where have Zerx. It was just taking a walk out at a dock, and suddenly she's like incoming Paraska run, Paraska RTB. She's speaking just in just very, very highly controlled military terminology, where just everything just suddenly goes pear-shaped around him with people who were really raiders all in disguise trying to carve a reputation out of his backside. So and she's just completely glacially calm in the whole. Even Brogan and Ike, two of the Shadowstar crew, are kind of, they're not panicking. They're cool-headed about it, but they're a bit more emotional, they have a bit more to say. Whereas Miranda is just like, she doesn't speak unless she absolutely has.
Next target.
Yeah, next target. Boom. Yeah. And then she'll just say again, Paraska RTB. And so that's how, I kind of came up with how I kind of envisioned her. So otherwise, Terry, what were you meaning that I had? Was there anything else you meant when I was saying I had trouble?
Well, the way you've said it in the past, you felt that she was difficult to write.
Oh
when
yeah,
you wanted to do stuff for her. It's like, she is and she isn't. It's that sort of thing where, because autism's a spectrum, I have it myself.
Right.
The character herself is this is the mission. I will perform that. In the current one I'm writing, there's a whole bit where they're trying to help out another group, and she's sort of just stood in the doorway. She's already anticipated they might ask if she'll help them, so she's like there. She's already got a rifle in her hand. So I'm assuming you want my help. Yes, please. Okay, and literally just walks off and leaves them behind. It's like, oh, I guess we should catch up with her then, because she's reasoned already that they're going to want her help. They've said yes, please. So she's like, okay, let's go then.
Also, I think I kind of drew a teensy bit. Jacob, have you ever watched the newer Battlestar Galactica?
The newer one?
Yeah.
No.
All right. First of all, you need to watch it. It's actually really good. Secondly, there's a particular. They're not a singular character. Every Cylon ship has one. It's called the Hybrid, and it is special Cylons that are hooked up basically to the network of the ships. And you will know a hybrid because, first of all, you only see their head sticking out of this tank of water they keep them in, and connect all these wires connected to them, and they're just constantly rattling off a stream of consciousness. And it doesn't even sound like what they're saying makes any sense. Like one moment they'll be rattling off poetry, philosophy, and then they'll be rattling off stats, of what's going on, the ship's environmental controls or tactical controls or whatnot, and interspersing it again with philosophy and history and blah blah. But the thing about it is that it's not because they're crazy, and it's not because they're unaware. They are absolutely aware of you, because sometimes if you are talking, sometimes they may choose to pause everything they're saying and talk directly to you and say something that makes total sense, and then they'll just go right back to the stream of consciousness. And
wow,
yeah, and sometimes they will make their approval or disapproval of a thing known. Like there was this one scene where the Cylons, they all kind of take a vote. They all have their hands in this water. It's, I guess, a conduit to where they can share their thoughts, and they're deciding on what to do in a particular tactical plan. And they had this one scene where they wanted to do, I forget what they wanted to do, but suddenly the hybrid started screaming.
Wow.
In the middle, and they all stopped and looked at her, and then they one of them said the hybrid didn't like that, and then he said she doesn't get a vote. So yeah, it was really kind of crazy. To save his life, as a matter of fact, Starbuck hooked up her boyfriend to the data stream inside the Cylon ship. So yeah, because at the end it was really sad. When the Cylons decided to, when they brought the rest of when they finally found Earth and brought in, and this is way too late for spoilers. The show's been out for years and years. Um, they decided to give up their fleet and start anew on Earth just from square one. So all the ships they piloted into the sun, and since they couldn't disconnect him from the data stream without killing him, he voluntarily piloted the ship into the sun.
They wired him up to the Galactica.
Huh?
They wired him up to Galactica.
Yeah, that's right.
Not a Cylon ship. He was wired into Galactica.
That's right. They had to do an upgrade to Galactica to make it like a Cylon ship and hook them up to it. Yeah. So, the Cylons, they because they were AIs during this war that the colonies had against the Cylons, they had to kind of go regressive in their technology and make everything basically analog and never network their computers anymore, because the Cylons would be able to take over digital networks, and that's how they almost like destroyed the colonies in the first war. And and so it was just a policy to never network their computers because the Cylons were still out there and they didn't want to do that. They had to network him into the ship's data stream. They piloted the Galactica and the rest of the fleet into the sun. It was pretty crazy, but yeah, I'm just to make a long story short, they were a slight bit
a major challenge for Brandon usually.
They were a slight bit of inspiration that I used to kind of, when I was writing about Miranda, and I always verify things with Terry. It was like, is this the kind of thing she would do? Or if it wasn't, he'd let me know. So that's at least we work together as writer. By the way,
if I remember my order, her lore song is coming up on my next round of uploads to the channel.
What about it?
Well, I do cheesy Suno lore songs for all the characters, and then I'll pop them on YouTube for people to listen to if they want to. I'm currently doing the Shadow Star crew, so I'm just checking my order. I think Miranda is actually the next one.
Oh, okay.
Slated, yeah, because I put Ike up yesterday. Miranda's the next in order.
I think there are a couple of songs I haven't listened to yet, the ones you just sent me. I had meant to and I forgot. Dang it! Now I remember what I wanted to say. That reminds me, Jacob. If you ever want to do a collab with somebody, please make sure that it's someone you work really well with, and that they're kind of a rare find, because there was somebody I worked with before on a collab, and unfortunately things went pear-shaped. Well, actually, it was multiple people we've worked with on collabs, but one other person that stands out, and unfortunately things kind of went really bad with me and her.
I think I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, I remember it was all I could ever talk about. If you remember all those years ago.
I do remember that. Now you brought that up.
Yeah. So
is that the one I kept telling you for weeks? Burn that bridge. It's not doing you any good.
I think I might have been that person. And
I don't tend to mince my words with Brandon, so it was like I remember that was like, mate, just walk away. It's doing you no good.
I mean, she and I buried the hatchet, but she and I haven't really talked in a very long time. But it's probably all for the best,
Right.
I'm your one true love.
All right. Oh, by the way, Jake, was there any kind of questions you wanted to ask us about about what we're working on?
So what's the next? What are your plans moving forward now?
Well, we're working on the fourth book. What do we call it? What was the name that we wanted to give it? Suddenly I'm blanking on it. I don't know why. Terry,
what's that?
What was the name of the next book?
It's called Tech Support because it features mostly the tech tanks, who are the tiny little ones.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's Tech Support, and that one's gonna be that one's actually a much more compact story. More focused story than the last one. The last one was like we had like different all different characters and taking place in in a much wider area of, that universe. Whereas tech support mainly takes place on one planet, and that's Zhao. Zhao is a little bit like Coruscant in that the entire planet isn't one big city, but they have a massive continent on that planet that is covered in one huge city in Ecumenopolis. And so yeah, it takes place in that world, and it has to do with these tech tanks. Now, one thing, it's not something you've really known about the story, is that there are these the Second Imperium is one of the factions in our story. They use basically genetically engineered humans for their military. They're called tanks because they're grown in tanks.
Grown in a tank, yeah.
Yeah, there are many different kinds that are used for different functions, but one particular one is called a tech tank. They're generally smaller than humans, about like a little bit taller than a 10-year-old.
Well, 5 feet is their rough height. The average height is 5 foot tall.
Yeah, a little bit taller than a hobbit.
And that's because they wanted to make them as compact as they could to fit them in the processor pods. But I have a bit of a fudge law as to the reason why they can't just grow a brain in a brain in a bag and then stick it in there. You need the whole human body, otherwise the system doesn't work. There is a reason behind it, but I just kind of keep it brief.
That makes me think of if you ever read Brave New World, there was a discussion at the beginning of the book as to the different kinds of people they could create, in these pods, and it was like, how come we couldn't, make certain types of people that are like this tiny and whatnot. Yeah, so that was kind of fun. But they're very small. But they live their entire lives inside processor pods, and they're supplemental processors for the ships' computers on starships, warships, that kind of stuff. And so you have we have one particular character who's one of the main characters, a member of the Shadowstar crew named Pip, and she's a tech tank that was freed from her pod by Miranda and Maria, two other tanks. Maria is a huge ground tank. They're basically one of the larger, heavier shock troops, whereas Miranda's a tactical tank, and she's the kind of the.
They're both ground tanks.
They're both.
Maria has the equivalent of giantism.
Yeah, Maria's huge. She's like very,
7 foot tall. Yeah. The average ground tank height is 6 feet. No, Miranda's always been a ground tank. It's just her specialism was sniper and tactics, and that leads into the autism side of things. That's where her hyper focus is really strong.
Yeah, and so so Pip is like very interesting little character because she's she's kind of used to not used to dealing with people directly. Her experience has always been through computers and networks and whatnot. So living real life is a bit more of a complicated thing for her than she's normally used to, but she's, constantly learning it. And she's very curious. She wants to she's got like fingers in every pot, but not necessarily because she knows what to do with the pot, but she has a finger in it.
One of the best ways to describe her is she's gone from being semi-conscious all her life, just processing information, to having effectively, several planets worth of internet at her fingertips, and the freedom to do whatever she wants. So you've got somebody who's in an adult body with almost a slightly underdeveloped personality. So you imagine what that does to someone, but going from just being dealing with what you're told to deal with to, oh, look at this playground, and then people, feelings, these are new.
Yep. Be prepared whenever you want to talk to her about something. Be prepared to hear the question why more times than you ever thought possible.
and to talk at length about how great she is.
Yeah. And so she meets other tech tanks on Zhao. They're actually tech tanks from the ship that she was part of. You see, what happened, there was a failed incursion into Felian space. Felians are the only other alien race that humans have encountered. They're normally friendly, but their technology is a lot more advanced than human technology, and you don't cross the Felian Empress. and they tried to make an incursion into Felian space. And then the Felians taught them that was a huge mistake. The ship was wrecked, and they were kind of left out there to bleed out and die. And several tanks managed to escape, with many other tech tanks that had survived, more or less intact.
Mm-hmm.
You have a colony of tech tanks that live on Zhao, one of the Imperial worlds, but it's an Imperial world where the Imperium kind of tends to look the other way because
it's on the border, you know. It's sort of, how would you describe it? 1970s Hong Kong. Yeah.
It's mostly governed by triads and yakuza, and so the Imperium kind of tends to look the other way because it would be too much of a hassle to try to clean up the city to the point where it'd be a proper Imperial world. And so,
as long as they don't get too big for their boots, you're fine.
Yeah, so they're able to live in relative obscurity on that world, and Pip learns about it. You know, these are people who are part of her hub, and every hub has a hub mother, and so they're basically kind of care for and keep the other tech tanks in line when they're hooked up to the ship's network.
The best description is they're an organic server.
Yeah,
they handle the raw data load and then disseminate it to the rest of them.
I kind of see them in, if you ever watch Minority Report, how Agatha took care of Arthur and Dash because she was the strongest precog. So her hub mother does something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they one of their kind, you know, goes out kind of into the big world and ends up getting captured by Yakuza thugs. She manages to escape, but she's kind of
Yakuza.
Also androids. Androids are really bad news, and most androids, not all of them, but the ones that exist still in the Second Imperium, they're remnants of technology left over from the Imperium Wars. They're given a lot of autonomy, but in doing so, they kind of blurred their connection using a particular drug, connection to a central computer that used to govern them. And that actually kept them sane if they were hooked up to that computer network. And they use a drug called BTS, Better Than Sex, that blurs their connection to the central computer. And though it gives them more human emotions, those emotions tend to get very twisted. Think of, like how Lore was from Star Trek. They become evil and sadistic. Many of them to understand what a human soul is, so they'll try to dig into humans to try to find their souls without the benefit of anesthetic. So there you go. And so this poor girl runs afoul of androids and also certain members of Yakuza and whatnot. And so they work. The tech tanks work with Pip and another member of the Shadowstar crew named Kyron, who's sort of the ship's doctor and / scientific expert. And they, to go and rescue this girl, along with other members of the Yakuza called the Wildcast. And Terry, you might want to go ahead and talk about that one.
That's because they're ground tanks. Again, with the idea is any of the free tanks that aren't actually part of the military all stem from this wrecked ship. So they've all gone, well, we got abandoned, we got left to die. So we don't really want to go back to our masters. So they landed, they helped the tech tanks nicknamed the Coven because they don't speak, they all communicate digitally. And so people nickname them witches because, they work with technology, they don't speak. And the White Akira helped them settle. And then they're like, we don't really know what to do with ourselves. But one thing we're really good at is fighting. So they became enforcers for the Yakuza. And they got the White Akira is a literal translation of white killers. Because they're monochrome skin. They deliberately make them look, like greys and whites and like black and white streaked hair, literally, because then if they run off, you can see them in a crowd. Oh, look, there's the deserter. They don't, they're quite clearly not the same color as a normal human, So because they're this pale white color, that's what they got nicknamed, and so they this sort of group. They're also named after famous kaiju because again, it's that pop culture thing where tanks get this. Oh, this is cool, and they're like, oh yeah, well, this is new. So they all pick different names after Godzilla villains.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, one is Bioland, one is Ghidorah, one is
Well, Ghidorah's a tech, but I haven't actually revealed too much of her yet. But that's because she's a different kind of tech tank, like one called Izumi. They're called wreckers. Their whole design is to destroy a computer system instead of where the others will infiltrate it. Literally, you plug them in and they'll tear it to shreds. Your hardware will die because literally there's no software left to govern it. But yeah, no, Biolante's the poison expert, for example. There's one named Kumonga who was the giant spider, and she weaves all the plans and traps and webs as a web. Again, Destoroyah, which is a big monster from a Godzilla thing. She's the tallest one. She's huge. She's also very quiet. And then you've got another one who's a bit fiery, so I called her Rodan. And then the one who's got ADHD is called Gigan, and it's one of my friend. It's his favorite one. Has got blades for arms, so I gave her 2 Wakizashi. But she's got the equivalent ADHD, can't sit still. So when they actually do any fighting, they let her go. Go in first, away you go. Enjoy yourself. The rest of us will enact a plan. You go cause chaos. Do what you do.
Okay. All right. So what? Okay, I was thinking of Wakizashi. Okay, that's a Japanese short sword. So that was what you mean for her to have?
Yes,
Okay.
Because she carries 2 of them. Katanas are a bit too long, and Tantos are far too short.
Well, Tanto is basically a Japanese dagger. They're about like yay long. So
yeah, exactly. And Artemis tends to carry those.
Okay. All right, so yeah,
almost as if I know my weapons, Brandon, isn't it? Oh.
I didn't say you didn't know though. I just was making sure that
I put some thought into my characters when I came up with them.
I'm not tolerating flaws. I promise you.
Look who's come alive despite his illness because Brandon made a mistake, and I love jumping on Brandon's mistake.
Yeah. So as you can see, Jacob, we put a lot of work into
I can see that.
Especially Terry. Terry's got the lion's share work on this one. The other 3 books have either been mostly my work or are almost 50-50 between us. And this one is one that he's done the most work on. It's pretty cool. Meanwhile, what's going on in the background is like I have Zerx and Paige working for this heavy industries corporation that's found new technology and are incorporating it into building new gestalts. And the gestalts are robots that they use for gladiatorial battles. But because a lot of the tech in gestalts is still not fully understood because they're a remnant from the first Imperium, there's a lot of work going on in trying to unlock that. In the
case of when technology was so good, we can build giant robots for war, so let's do it. Just because they could, not because it was practical. Yeah.
And that's what they're trying to see if they can unlock the rest of this tech so they can utilize their full potential as machines of war. But this particular type of new gestalt that they made is utilizing a type of technology that there's a story that we wrote a while back called Birthright, where you have a particular type of biotech that ended up finding its way to a planet called Blair and messing with the wildlife there. Yeah, this is the type of technology that they're using. So they're using some sort of strange alien tech that they even know.
Classic. Do we understand this technology? No. Shall we use it anyway? Yes.
So obsessed with whether or not they could, then stop to think about whether or not they should.
Yeah, it's the old. Could this give us a competitive edge? Yes. Let's try it out.
Yep, and because MTHI, one of the execs, is an android, it's going to be a special kind of reckless. Fortunately, Reckless is the name of Zerx's ship, so he gets caught in the thick of it. So whether fortunately or unfortunately, so that's going to be a very interesting little story where all this kind of stuff comes together. And we're hard at work on it now. As a matter of fact, once this live stream is done, I'm going to be getting hard. I'm going to be going to the bookstore, going to the coffee shop, and getting to work on the.
For me, I'm also distracted because I'm constantly looking at the live timing for the Le Mans 24 Hours, which is on this weekend, and I'm obsessed with it. So the fact I even came onto the live is, even if I wasn't unwell, you know, would be the case of I can't normally drag myself away from that. So yeah.
I hope you feel better soon.
If you're wondering, I've been clicking between tabs and checking up on the live timing whilst we've been talking.
So so we're going to one of the more. I really like the concept of the whole the hub mothers and everything like that for the tech tanks. And it actually kind of inspired me to put together a character of my own for Wild Space Saga. But this one's gonna be for more like side stories, and her name is sorry, I'm getting Cammy and Maddie mixed up. This one's name is Maddie, and she is actually a hub mother. But this one found her way to a fleet of space hippie ships, and space hippies are like itinerant travelers and kind of self-sufficient entrepreneurs and whatnot. They have sort of a ragtag fleet of ships that
the two we feature have wonderful names, because there's Matty and then there's Drusilla, which is the one in tech support.
Right.
And then there's another one who works for the Laughing Cat fleet, which is the space pirate fleet, and her name is Cammy. Now this one's kind of unique among the other tech tanks because she never came out of her pod. She's shy. It's not that she doesn't want to experience the real world. She's still really afraid of it on a certain level. And so she manifests herself as a hologram. They fashioned a series of holographic emitters so that she can follow along the crew and whatnot and pop in as a hologram, even with a hard light option. So she can even interact with objects if she needs to. And she's got a very weird sense of humor. Sometimes
they all have.
Yeah, but hers kind of goes into the, that's not appropriate because she doesn't know how to human very well sometimes.
No filter. Yeah.
Yeah. If you want to see her, by the way, Jacob, on our DeviantArt page, I started doing a series of short web comics that have her. So
it was a deliberate decision to make tech tanks a lot more eccentric than the others because of the idea that they were semi-conscious. They're just used as organic information processors. So to be free to look up information and feel and think for yourself almost instantaneously, going from one to another. I mean, I've got ones they've got, in their digital world, they got Welsh accents, Irish accents. One of them is Ukrainian and curses at everyone in full Ukrainian when she's not happy, and they're all like, you do know we're running translation programs, right? We know what you're saying. Even when she's cursing, it's like, we all understand each other, no matter what you're saying. It's all real-time translated in our own mind. But the whole idea is that they're all a little bit eccentric. And there's even our other one, Numi, who's full-on Glaswegian, Scottish, so she swears like a sailor.
That Scottish accent is something really funny that it's kind of an inside joke between Terry and I, because Terry showed me this thing called Tay-Siders in Space, and it's basically Star Trek, but everybody speaks with this I don't even know where that
Scottish accent, and from Glasgow they kind of have their own dialect.
Oh God, you watch this and you have no idea what they're saying, like
apart from the set phases to Milky. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I actually used the idea of her in a couple of our lore songs. So she's effectively singing the lore song, and there's a lot of copious use of the word bastard in it,
Yeah. That's what Numi is like. Whereas like with Cammy, she's a hub mother. It's not that she doesn't want to be a hub mother. It's that she's embraced life as an individual to the point where she wants to give the rest of her hub, a chance to live, as themselves. And so she doesn't hook herself up to the hub if she doesn't need to. But because she has to, in a story that I have in my head, it's almost it's like not so much an addiction, but it's something that it's an embrace that she doesn't want to let go of, because that closeness that she feels with the rest of her hub, because the fleet enters a crisis where she needs to network herself once more along with the other tech tanks that were part of her hub. And but she also fell in love with one of the members of the space hippie fleet, and so she kind of wants to be as an individual with him. And so what you have is kind of like her love for him actually is kind of stronger than the pull back into the data stream. So it does help her to come back out. So it's going to be a really, really sweet story once I'm done with it.
Looking forward to it.
And dude, I'm really kind of looking forward to seeing what you do with your story, man. Because like I said, the whole deal with weaving in, dealing with trauma, especially using the Vietnam War, understanding what it means to be a man, and also dealing with a kaiju and being pulled back and forth into the past. That really is an interesting combo that I'm kind of looking forward to seeing once you get all that done. So, keep me posted on the progress.
The other week, didn't we? How with I've forgotten his name. I do apologise to him. But it's how we use sci-fi sometimes as allegory to explore certain things. Because as Brandon will tell you, a lot of my characters have been through some sort of trauma in their lives. Mine are very broken and are usually on the mend, or still broken to some degree through various experiences. So yeah, using that to explore certain concepts in that way, I think is always really good, because you can then tackle it in a way that it's not too on the nose for people to then, to look at it and back off, because you've got it in another environment that lets them ease into it, but still understand the poignancy of what you're trying to tell.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, it's some of the best sci-fi definitely is allegorical sci-fi. Just like a lot of stories is really good as allegorical. I mean, for you using a lot of what you're doing for allegory, we'll see when it comes out, and I'm hoping that's going to also be a really good addition there.
Yeah, once the first draft is done and all that stuff, and I've done my own revisions, I'm going to be sending out requests for beta readers. So if you're interested in that, just let me know. So all that stuff.
All right, definitely. All right, looks like we have kind of reached past the 1 hour mark.
Brandon, look at my name. Look at my name.
You told me about it.
We beat Leicester last night. After we beat Leicester in the semis last night, we're into the finals. Northampton Saints. Yeah, that's my rugby team, if you're wondering.
He has his Saints, so I have my Saints because I'm in Louisiana.
Next week. Yeah.
So, yeah. So definitely. See, I'm glad you're enjoying yourself, dude.
I'm glad I came on. I feel a bit more alive. I've been rough the last few days. So it was nice of you guys to pick me up a bit. I appreciate it.
Sounds good. I'll see you guys later. You have a good one.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
And everybody, so we have reached the 1 hour mark. So that means we're going to go ahead and close the shop for today. And so just a reminder, we have our links to our to our various to our various social medias. We got our YouTube page, of course. That you're watching us through that. We hope you will join us on our YouTube page. We're going to be posting a whole lot of fun things. I got some things up in the wings myself, animations and things like that are advertised. Wild Space Saga, little short comics that I want to do. Use some video stuff.
Yeah.
Terry,
we will be putting more than the lore songs on eventually. It's just we're getting our heads around technology.
Oh yeah, and he's got those lore. He's got those lore songs. He's gonna have some more.
I do write all the lyrics too. I still tell you, I only use Suno to help me make the song.
Oh yeah,
all the words are mine.
And then we have our Instagram where we post a lot of the stuff that we have that we do use AI just more for fun. because we do our own artwork, and we have our own artwork on our DeviantArt page, where I post a lot of the comics, a lot of different art things, concept art, creatures, things, people for Wild Space Saga. You want to get a good, nice deep dive into the story with a lot of background information. Go there, check us out. Go, if you don't mind AI stuff. Hey, go to Terry. Terry runs the the Instagram, where he's posts notifications, stuff that we have here on Facebook, but also
I always say to people, as far as I'm concerned, using the AI stuff for fun or as a tool, I don't personally see an issue with. That's what I do. That's why I put these lore songs on. If you like them, you are welcome to them. You're never going to be expected to pay for them or join a membership for them to download them or anything like that. That's not what I believe it's about. If you create something like that, and let's face it, the software's doing the heavy lifting for me. It's I might do the words, but it makes the song. Yeah. And I just tell it what sound I want, and then I share it with you all. You are there it's there for you to enjoy, and just to enhance your enjoyment of our world. It's never going to be there for you to be exploited and make money out of something that I haven't done the majority of the work in.
Yeah, and of course we do that for fun, ladies and gentlemen. And we also have an X account where I have also kind of give a little bit of a advanced notification for our live streams, and also show processes of some of the artwork that we do, and other little comics, short things that you might not get on our DeviantArt or here on YouTube or even on Instagram. So, you can join us there. There's a lot of cool stuff. Go down in the doobly-doo, check it out. There's also, of course, links to our books that, we hope that we might have piqued your interest in getting some of them. And so, everyone, I'd like to thank Jacob for joining us, man. Big thanks to you for hanging out with us today, giving us information about your stuff. And we're glad we were able to also share some information about our story with you as well. And we may have you back at a later point, especially if you're further along in your story, because may want to have you read a small part or something like that if you don't mind.
Well, yeah, I'll keep you updated for sure.
Right, awesome. And so everyone, thanks again for checking us out. So once again, this is Brandon Hill speaking with Terry. We're in the final baby Pegasus.
Because we are in the final baby.
Yeah. Speaking for Wild Space Saga, and we hope that you'll come again next time.
Next week it might say we are the champions is what I'm hoping to put next week.
And so we hope you'll join us once again on the Northwest Passage. Until next time, this is Brandon Hill saying stay lucky and stay blessed. Take care.